Which is better, Pepsi or Coca-Cola? Is pineapple on pizza good? Which is better, iPhone or Android? Which is better, MSU or U of M?
Coke.
Pepsi.
I think Pepsi is way too sugary and gross, and it tastes too sweet.
For me, with Coke, Coke leaves like a weird chalkiness on my teeth.
You know that texture of pineapple does not seem good in pizza.
Do you remember when we won? What was it, in the last few seconds?
I do remember that.
Oh!
Could you still be friends with someone who likes one pop over the other?
100%.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, unless that's the only thing we ever argue about, but I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I think that if you have a good relationship with this person and you can go through a lot together and they're easy to get along with, and it's really irrelevant.
Could you still be friends with someone who has a different political view other than yours?
I think that I could definitely be friends with someone who has opposing political views.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, of course. But I would never turn someone away just because they have Republican in their Twitter bio.
Yeah.
I think so, for the same reason. You can't let a Republican or Democrat get in the way of friendship.
Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed is a trained physician and epidemiologist. Previously, he was a Democratic candidate for the governor of Michigan.
Unfortunately, I think we're in some of the most polarized times that we've ever been in. And I think in part that's fueled by just a deep segregation and the fact that social media has allowed people to be exposed only to the ideas that they agree with. We have reacted to this moment in trying to shut down certain other people's ideas rather than airing them out and just doing the work of listening and understanding and empathizing and disagreeing. And so, we live in an era where information is ubiquitous and it happens across different modes. But the ideals are the same. I mean, today you can publish what you have to say immediately. I can pull out my smartphone, I can put it out on Twitter, I can put it out on Facebook, or take a picture on Instagram and put it out that way. And so it has made the ability to speak that much more profound.
I think people are going to believe what they want to believe. Certainly, social media is kind of like gasoline on a fire, but I don't think fake news is necessarily a problem. I think it's just more an accelerant on the underlying problem, which is the divisions that we see in this country.
When we first thought of freedom of speech and freedom of press, sometimes those were intertwined, right? And so we would look at speech in general, quite literally, the speech coming out of one's mouth, the protests or conversations that people would have. But in today's world, that's also wrapped up in social media as well. Anything that's posted either on a Facebook page, a Twitter account, put into a blog or a post can also be freedom of speech.
Jennifer Crotty is a high school teacher and Model UN advisor.
Model United Nations is what we consider to be almost a practice form for students to be able to learn about what other countries believe in, what their goals are, and how to resolve conflict throughout the world.
I had the privilege of growing up in a household where my father was an Egyptian immigrant, spent a lot of my summers back and forth between this country and Egypt. I had an experience where I said what I thought, and my grandmother had told me, you can't say whatever you think here. And just to push the limits, I did. Next time we were in the market, I started using the choice words that my cousins had taught me about the president of that country. That night, we had a group of cops come to the house. My grandfather sold vegetables and one of the toughest people I've ever met in my life. And I think the first time I ever saw him afraid was that moment. He came up to me and said, "Where's your passport?" And I was like 13 at the time. And I got him the passport and he showed it to the cops and he said, he's an American. You can't do anything to him. And so even abroad, my right to freedom of speech as American was protected.
Freedom of speech is extremely important in the United States. As we've seen over the past few decades, more and more people feel that it becomes limited, and if you're not acting upon actively using your freedom of speech, people begin to lose it. It's taken away from entities, either from corporations, government entities, or individuals as they start to limit it through their own actions. Absolutely, free speech is being inhibited. In the last few decades, people have had a voice that has been stronger and stronger as they are trying to find their voice, but that voice has gotten lost. So you have this duality in a world where duality should not exist. Nothing is black and white. There's always more than a right or a wrong. But in the freedom of speech conversation, everybody wants a right and wrong voice.
Our Bill of Rights guarantees us the freedom of speech, and it allows us to be and do and say whatever we want, often in opposition to those in power. And that's pretty critical, and we take it for granted because most of us don't know any different.